So you have probably made your decision to study abroad. Then you find it difficult to decide whether to study in this country or in that country. So probably you have made the decision to study in an English-speaking country. You have narrowed down the list, but still, there are so many options out there. So don't worry, because in this video, we're going to share with you some of the things that you can consider, especially if you are choosing between study in Australia or in the UK. So the very first thing is the number of international students. So Australia has the third largest number of international students, and it's just behind UK and the US. So it's pretty impressive considering that the country only have around 24 million residents. Based on the data in 2022, in the UK, there are around 605,000 international students, while in Australia, there are nearly 600,000 international students. Both countries are experiencing a slowdown because of COVID, so the number of international students are expected to increase in the coming years. So the second thing to consider is the top-ranked universities located in that country. Both Australian and UK universities appear in the world ranking lists that are created by top universities, by Times Higher Education, and all the other organizations. And according to the data in 2022, there are around 151 universities located in the UK. So the University of Oxford and the University of Cambridge are listed as the top two best universities in the UK, and then it is followed by the other top-ranking universities in UK such as Imperial College London, University of College London, King's College London, University of Edinburgh, and so on. Meanwhile, for Australia, according to the Times Higher Education World Ranking 2022, there are 37 top universities located in Australia. So the highest ranking universities in Australia are the University of Melbourne, followed by Australian National University, the University of Queensland, Monash University, and also the University of Sydney. Just like in the US, there is an Ivy League. In Australia and in UK, there are leading universities in that country. So in Australia, it's called the Group of 8 or the Go8. It includes the University of Adelaide, Australian National University, the University of Melbourne, Monash University, UNSW Sydney, the University of Queensland, the University of Sydney, and the University of Western Australia. Meanwhile, in the UK, they have the Russell Group, or a group of the 24 best universities in the countries, and you can check the list of the Russell Group universities here. The next part is about the education system, or how Australian and UK university work. Undergraduate courses in England, Northern Ireland, and Wales are typically 3 years long, and you can only study one subject, so that means you have to select the courses or the major that you're applying for since the beginning, since the first time you're applying to the university. So in Scotland, undergraduate courses tend to span for 4 years and cover several subjects in the first 2 years before students specialize in one of the subjects in the final 2 years. At the postgraduate level, generally courses in the UK are more specialized, but then you can choose whether to study taught master's courses where you just need to take all the courses or like seminars and all, or whether you want to take the research master program where it will emphasize more in doing your research and also making your own projects. And lastly, for PhD, kind of varies, so that depends on the courses that you choose, so the duration depends on the kind of research that you're doing and also whether or not you are required to take some classes as a part of the PhD program. So meanwhile, in Australia, it is pretty common for students to take double or combined degree, and you can choose to study, for example, art and science, or maybe commerce and engineering, or art and law. And then typically degree program, bachelor's program are 3 years long, but if you choose to study dual degree or combined degree program, or for some other specific majors, it might take longer than just 3 years. And Australian university usually place a lot more emphasis in encouraging the work experience during students' study experience. So they typically will encourage students to take internships or some placement during their study period. The next part is about the tuition fee and also the living cost in UK versus Australia. So international students are usually charged higher than the domestic students in Australia, and then the tuition fee itself, it depends on the courses that you take and which country you're from. In 2023, international students can expect to pay around 10,000 to 32,000 pounds for the undergraduate program. Meanwhile, if you choose to study programs like medicine, the cost will be a lot more than that. You could expect to spend about 64,000 pounds annually for the tuition fee only. In terms of the accommodation, basically you can choose to stay on campus or outside of campus. So the average rent per month in UK is around 550 pounds. Meanwhile, if you are staying in London, the price is more expensive, so you could expect to spend around 640 pounds per month for the rent. Therefore, you can expect to pay around 900 to 1,300 pounds per month to cover for your accommodation, bills, groceries, basically your accommodation and living expenses if you're staying in the UK. But if you are staying in London, then you have to pay a lot more because it's more expensive than the rest of the UK. So if you are studying in London, then you should expect to pay around 1,300 to around £1,400 per month. Meanwhile, in Australia, they have a different tuition fee calculation. Instead of calculating it annually like the UK, they calculated it based on the number of courses or like the study unit that you take during that year. And therefore, students can pay different amounts every year, and even you and your friends, you can pay different tuition fee if you're studying in Australia, because that depends on the number of study units each of you are taking. So the average tuition fee to study undergraduate program in Australia is around 30,000 Australian dollar, but basically you can pay anything between 20,000 to 45,000 Australian dollar per year for the tuition fee. But if you're studying medicine program in Australia, it will cost a lot more than that, so you could expect to pay around 50,000 Australian dollar per year. And then for masters and PhD program, the tuition fee will range from around 22,000 all the way to 50,000 Australian dollar per year. So in terms of the accommodation and living costs, that depends on where you're staying in Australia. So if you choose to study in the northern or the western part of Australia, generally the costs are cheaper than if you choose to study in bigger cities like in Sydney or maybe in Melbourne. So on-campus accommodation is typically around 4,000 to 1,000 Australian dollar per month, and a shared rental accommodation is about 380 to 850 Australian dollar per month. So in terms of the total cost that you will be spending outside of the tuition fee, so for accommodation and then food, for the living costs, groceries, transportation and all, international students in Australia should expect to spend around 1,400 to 2,500 Australian dollar per month. But yes, then again, that depends on where you're studying, because as I mentioned before, if you choose to study in the western or the northern part of Australia, typically the cost will be much cheaper. So as a comparison, for example, if you choose to study in Sydney, then the living costs and accommodation costs would start from around 1,900 Australian dollar. Meanwhile, if you choose to study in Brisbane or in Canberra, in Adelaide, the cost could be much cheaper and you could spend around 1,300 or 1,400 Australian dollar per month. And the next part is the part that all of you are waiting for, the scholarship. So although you have the ability to pay by yourself, maybe the organizations are sponsoring your studies, but I believe scholarships is also one of the main points that international students are considering when they are choosing to study abroad. Maybe some of you want the opportunity to study abroad, but you don't have all of the resources, you don't have enough funds to support your studies overseas, then scholarships is also a solution for you, so you can still continuing living your dream and study abroad as an international student. So in UK, if you're an international student, there are numbers of scholarships that you can apply for to cover your tuition fee, to cover the maintenance costs, and sometimes it can even cover the flights from your home country to the UK. Please do your research so you know which type of scholarships that covers you the best, because they have different requirements and also different coverage as well. And then the scholarships is not just given to the smartest kid in the class, but it is also given to those who have financial needs. It is also given based on your country of origin. There are also athletic scholarships or other achievements like entrepreneur scholarships and so on. So please do your research so you know which type of scholarships are given and how to apply for it. Other than that, most universities are giving some sort of financial aids or scholarships for international students. So make sure to check it first on the university that you're applying for so you know the kind of scholarship opportunities that they have. And also there are scholarships from the government as well, so you can check the scholarship from your own local government, or maybe check the scholarships from the UK government, which is the Chevening scholarships. And then in Australia, there are also plenty of scholarships opportunities for international students. Most of the scholarships come from the universities and also merit-based, so it's given to the smartest kids in the class. There are also some scholarships from the private institutions or maybe from the government, and also some from the organizations as well. Just like in the UK, there is the Chevening scholarships from the UK government. In Australia, the Australian government also provides the Australian Award scholarships for international students coming from Asia, Africa, Middle East, and the Pacific. So normally the application deadline is somewhere around March or April, so be sure to check the detail in the Australian Award website so you don't miss the requirements and also the application timeline. And you can do the online applications on their website as well. And then this type of scholarship, the Australian Award Scholarship, it's basically kind of like a fully funded scholarships because it covers everything from your tuition fee, living expenses, and also flight ticket might be provided as well. And if you're planning to study your master's or PhD program in Australia, you can also check other type of scholarship. For example, the Postgraduate Scholarship Awards and the International Postgraduate Research Scholarships, because these scholarships, they provide financial support for international students that wants to do their master's and PhD program in Australia. And don't forget to check the universities as well, the universities that you're applying for, because most universities in Australia, they can also give financial aid or scholarships for the international students, so you can check the requirements from each university. university. So in conclusion, studying in the UK and Australia are the most popular study destinations at the moment. They both provide excellent education quality for the domestic and international students. Other than that, also a high living quality as well in both countries. And in the end, it is up to you to decide which country will be most suitable for you based on your own preferences, based on your own qualifications, budget, and everything. So make sure to choose wisely because your education will also shape your future. And then spending 3 or 4 years in that country will bring a lot more benefits and also a lot of new adventure in your life as well. If you are planning to study in either UK or Australia, be sure to check our website as well, Global Admissions, because we can help you with the whole application process to UK and also Australian universities. And if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact us or check our website, Global Admissions, for more information. So that's all. I hope this video is helpful to make your decision whether to study in the UK or in Australia or maybe in other destination.